Imagine this whole thing. Waking up one day and looking around and being quite sure that everything you have ever known, every person, every object, every feeling could have been fabricated by your own brain. The people smiling at you on the street, the barista handing your coffee to you, the sun warming your skin might just not be real. Those voices you hear, it's like laughter or a fit, might be in your head. You think about this world you're stuck in. It starts to feel like it's totally made up, some kind of stage set for you. And the worst part? It gets you wondering whether you have ever really sorted what's real from what's not. The freaky thing about solipsism is this idea that only your own consciousness is real, and everything else is just this big, empty show. What happens when that thought really sets into your head and won't budge? It starts to erode the way you relate to things, until every conversation starts to feel like a possible fraud. Every time anyone speaks with you, the nagging little voice in your head says, "Are they actually real? Or is my brain just making up what they say?" At first, it sounds like some dumb idea. But the more you think about it, the harder it is to shake off. Perhaps your best friends, family, even the random people you pass in the street, are just projections of your own mind, shadows cast in your brain. The world is your dream, and they're all puppets dancing to the tune of your thoughts. Is not everything unreal to a solipsist nightmare? It begins with this feeling that you're spiraling off kilter, an eeriness, a disconnection from everything around you. Stuff you took for granted, like that person's touch or those laughs with your buddies, starts to feel kind of flimsy, like they have turned into this little puff of smoke that could just vanish any second. What if nobody else is real? What if you are trapped, all alone, during this eternally feeding circle of your own head? If you're the only one that's really cognizant, that means every little conversation you've ever had was with a complete illusion. That firm handshake with your coworker, that was just your brain shaking hands with itself, basically. That deep conversation with the friend where you feel you were finally heard and understood. Well, this feedback loop was just your own thoughts reaching back to you. Is the love one may have for a partner or parent any different? It's the way your inner self desired a connection, now acted out in an empty world. Consider the ramifications of this. With solipsism, every relationship becomes an empty, one-way thing. You begin to question what trust and intimacy truly mean. How could you possibly trust a person who is not even real? How can you really share your most profound emotions when it feels like they're just bouncing around in your own head? Every smile starts to feel fishy, and every word you hear feels like it might not even come from someone else. It creates this super scary sense of being alone. It's not just that you think you're alone. It's that you are alone completely and totally. Even persons around you could be mannequins, all dressed up in outfits of humans, without the slightest hint of any life at all. They don't think, they don't feel, and they definitely don't see you because there's no they. You start to let your imagination fill those gaping voids behind their eyes with the notion that there just isn't any inner world that reflects yours. Solipsist world, it is a place where nobody is around to see anything. No one cares, and no one's there to share what you're going through. You're the only one seeing this weird reality, the only one that is actually aware, wandering through a bunch of illusions. And as this idea gnaws at your brain, it becomes a nightmare from which it is super hard to get away from. Some philosophers flirt with solipsism as a nice mental gymnastics, or as a profound thought to entertain while chilling in school. But living with a solipsist vibe, now, is another matter altogether. It would just be waking up every day to an increasingly empty world, thinking everything one goes through is only made up. You can't help but think, if with a sinking feeling, your whole life is some sort of sick joke your own brain is playing on you. So, there is Descartes, of course, who said, "Cogito, ergo sum," that is, I think, therefore I am. He kind of used that sentence as a foundation from which to proceed, and determined from doubt alone that there was an existent thinking self. But then along comes solipsism, the philosophy which takes that concept and makes it really creepy. I mean, you can be pretty certain that you exist, but what about everything else? That's still a super creaking mystery. In the solipsist nightmare, The world around you crumbles into doubt. The more one thinks about this, the more it feels like some kind of labyrinth in which there is no escape. Every attempt to reach out, to connect with another, feels like touching a shadow, insubstantial, fleeting, and unreal. There's a certain crazy kind of madness that comes with solipsism. The line between reality and what's in your head is blurred so completely that even your senses are untrustworthy. For example, what is real? What's made up? And if it's all made up, what does that mean for you? Are you just acting out a role in your own dream? Like some ghost drifting through a world you've created? Once you start to feel this way, you tend to begin questioning the point of it all. You are the only one really conscious. What then is the meaning of anything at all? What's the point in striving or dreaming or loving if there's nobody to share it with? Ahead of you, it's just this long, solitary road without anybody or meaning. But then there is that really, really scary question. If I'm the only one really awake, what happens when I kick the bucket? If you're the one who made this whole reality, does everything just disappear the second your consciousness goes away? Does the world just poof into non-existence, like a dream that's gone once your mind goes off? You know, when you think about death, it gets this heavy, existential vibe in a solipsist's nightmare. It's not just about you being gone, it's like the end of everything. Every single star up there, every mountain, every ocean, and everyone you've ever met, they all just disappear into nothingness, leaving zero behind. The whole universe crumbles into this big void, because you were the only thing keeping it all intact. Life in this utter nightmare takes on the aspect of a strange, lonely theater. You are the sole actor, on stage, entertaining nobody. The applause you think you hear, an echo of your own. The faces in the crowd, yeah, they're just masks, empty and expressionless. And that script you're following, your head concocted it, and no one else will ever check it out. It's not some philosophical principle, but more a horror story. The ultimate isolation, a form of terror of remaining within oneself with no escape and no other people around. It is being in that nightmarish scenario of having been the last human on Earth, walking through a chilly, uncaring universe devoid altogether of meaning. You know what's kind of freaky about it? The fact that you can literally neither prove nor disprove it. You literally can't pop out of your head to see if everything around you is legit. Every time you try, you just find yourself coming back around to that same super creepy question. What if none of this is real? What if I'm the only one here? The solipsist nightmare isn't about being solo. It is more the idea that your whole reality could be a total fake. That gnawing feeling that everything around you, everything you feel, and everything you think is real might just be a trick your mind plays on you. Once that doubt seeps into your head, good luck washing it off, as this is heavy and suffocating in thought, a clinging thought that will not let go of your head. The ultra creepy thought you end up with is, what if you're the only one really awake? What if the universe is just a dream your mind cooked up? Just about everything seems way chillier and emptier and way freakier than you could have thought it could be. The nightmare of the solipsist becomes your life, a life from which there might be no escape. As you go about your day, these weird questions stick around, sneaking in at the edges of every conversation. Every face is sunken, every voice a whisper that dies the instant it is spoken. You start feeling like you're the only conscious being, and it goes from just a random doubt to a really deep and kind of scary certainty. The world seems more and more like a shadow play, and you are right in the middle, trying to pull the strings, but the bummer is, you have no control over the illusions around you. Operating alone, they are nearly, but not quite convincing likenesses of real things. Something is always off. With that knowledge comes a heaviness, an existential weight that presses down on you. What does it say if all other minds are just phantasms? What if everything you ever loved, hated, fought for, or feared was all in your head? The closeness of friendship, comfort of family, thrill of love, none of that stuff would count. They'd just be echoes, like shadows playing in your head. Never much more than a little trick your brain is pulling. You try to shake it, telling yourself that you must be wrong. I mean, other people can't actually be fake, can they? They have their own thoughts and emotions, dreams and fears. But the little thought digs and clings. Seriously, how would you ever know for sure? You can never truly feel what another person is thinking. It gets deeply philosophical when you start to consider what death alludes to in this self-aggrandizing universe. Well, if you are the only one aware, what happens when your awareness kicks the bucket? Does the entire universe just poof into nothingness, like a dream disappearing when you wake up? Does everything just cease to exist the second your brain powers down? The thought is super overwhelming. It's not merely a matter of fearing death. It's about fearing that everything is temporary and that the whole thing we call reality depends on your consciousness all by itself. That's a pretty creepy thought. It hits you with this huge sense of responsibility. Imagine that the universe is only around because of you. What does it say about existence in and of itself? You're not just on your own, but this one solid pillar keeping the sky from falling down, the only thing keeping reality from going completely dark. But with that power, you still feel pretty helpless. You can't get free from the prison of your own mind, nor do you get out from under the curse of endless doubting and fearing. In the nightmare of the solipsist, there is no waking up. The world is an illusion with which you are forever trapped, incessantly questioning, and thus completely alone. Wherever you may look for meaning, it is increasingly impossible to find. You find yourself wandering through this tenuous realm, knowing that nothing's real, but you can't get rid of the terrible notion that this dream is all you'll ever see. In all seriousness, the nightmare, deep down, is just the most terrifying thing. That you're all alone, not just in the world, but like in existence itself. And you know what? The scariest thing of all might be that the universe you're living in, with all its amazing stuff and craziness, could just be a quick thought in the head of some lonely guy. A mind which, at any moment, could utterly annul what it has created, and thereby reduce the whole to nothingness.